So we'll start our project by setting up our drum kit. I'm going to use Kong in Reason, and we're going to connect it using Rewire into Ableton Live. You'll notice that I've opened up Reason after opening Live, and so we're in Rewire slave mode. I've initialized the Kong so that there are no drums located in it at the moment. And we're going to flip it around, and we're going to set it up so that each pad can be sent to a separate output. So the first thing I'll do is I'll disconnect the Kong, and I'm also going to disconnect the master section. Now there are 16 outputs from Kong, and if I chose to put all 16 here, then it would look like we'd use up all of our outputs. But don't worry about that, because remember, Reason actually has 64 outputs. Let's go ahead and put these in there now. So I'm going to connect the first two here, and you'll notice that it'll also automatically connect the pads. And you can also just simply right-click and select the first available one in the hardware interface. All right, so now we're set up so that each of the pads can be sent to a separate output if we choose. So now let's flip it around, and then we'll go ahead and set each pair of drums to a different output. The first two will go to the master effects. The next two need to go to output 3 and 4. And then the next ones to 5 and 6, and so far on and so forth. Unfortunately, there is no shortcut to doing this. And so the smartest thing to do is that once you've got it done, save it as a template. So now each one of these pairs is going to a stereo output. Now if I want to send them out individually, then the last thing to do is to go in and pan them left and right. Now this will have no effect on the stereo field. This is simply going to direct these to either the left or the right channel. So now let's go ahead and set up Live. We're going to go ahead and add an external instrument to the first MIDI track. Then I'll delete the rest of the tracks. We won't really need these. I'll set this up partially by setting it to Reason and setting it to Kong, but I'm not going to worry about the outputs at the moment. And then I'm going to create 8 total tracks by using the duplicate command. Now you don't have, we could create all 16, but for right now I think 8 will do just fine. So now we have to set our outputs, and I'm going to set them backwards. I'm going to start here, and I'm going to set this to channel 1, and you'll see why in just a minute. All right, so these are all set, and now I'm going to rename them as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this first one, and I'm going to call it the kick drum. And the reason for it is that when we go into the arrangement view, I'm going to want the kick drum on the bottom rather than on the top. So snare, and we'll just name a few of these right now. And we'll leave a couple of them blank. Now the last thing I'm going to do here when I'm setting this up is I'm going to select all of these instruments, and I'm going to group them. And this is going to make it into my drum group, and I will rename this drums. And so now if I click this arrow, you'll see that it collapses the window. When we go to the arrangement view, you can see that my kick drum now is on the bottom. And again, I can use that arrow to collapse that, which will make things work a lot easier later on.